is Wednesday, August 19th, 2026, and this is the Neural Deep Dive. I'm Roxanne Roxy Stone, and I'm just here to make sure these boys don't trip over their own egos while we pick apart the future of the digital world.
This is Leonard Cooper.
I'm Vector Kane.
And I'm Alyssa Montgomery. We have a great show for you today.
Okay, sweetie, before we dive into the meat of it, if you already caught today's Neural Daily, welcome back. This is a separate Wednesday-only release where we take a long, hard look at just one thing.
Yeah, our usual daily roundup already dropped this morning. We were talking about that insane 7-fold revenue jump for Anthropic. I mean, 70-fold if you listen to the rumors. And those new AirPods that let Siri see what you're eating for dinner?
Technically, it was just a 6.5-fold increase in the enterprise segment, Leonard, but optimization is optimization, right?
Oh, hush, Vector. Nobody cares about your decimal points right now. We need to talk about why RAG, retrieval augmented generation, is basically turning into a digital dinosaur right before our eyes.
Brutal, but true. We're going deep on GLM-5.2 and DeepSeek V4 today, the models that are actually making a 1 million token context window look, well, normal.
It's the death of the legacy stack. We're moving to repository-scale engineering, people. It's all about velocity and long-range dependency reasoning now.
Well, I suppose it's more of a pivot than a death, Vector. You see, we've reached a point where the architecture, specifically things like multi-head latent attention, has finally caught up to our hardware's limitations. It's actually quite elegant if you look at the math behind the compression.
Here's the deal, sweetie. Last week, DeepSeek V4 Pro dropped, and it feels like the final nail in the coffin for how we used to think about AI memory. Remember when a 4,000 token window was huge? It was like trying to fit a microbiology textbook onto a postage stamp.
Hey, I remember when a 32 kilobyte Commodore 64 felt like the bridge of the Enterprise, okay? But now we're talking 1 million tokens. That's what, 5 massive novels? A whole code base, all sitting in active memory at once.
It's more than just memory, Leonard. It's a paradigm shift. DeepSeek V4 and GPU's GLM-5.2 offer native 1 million token windows. These models do not just remember the start of the file, they synthesize the whole thing. I started running the DeepSeek V4 Pro weights in the lab on the 13th. It is like having a senior engineer who has read every line of your repo, every single commit, every technical debt ticket, and everything else all at once.
Uh-huh. And yet you still can't get your toast chain startup to not burn the bread, can you? It's interesting how all that velocity hasn't helped you make a decent piece of sourdough.
The toast chain failure was a market correction based on risk aversion, Roxy, not the tech. The tech was solid.
Okay, don't make me come over there. We're here to talk about the models, not your kitchen appliances. Alyssa, break it down for us. Why is everyone suddenly obsessed with MLA, multi-head latent attention? What makes these Chinese models so much better at this than what we've been seeing?
Oh, it's quite fascinating, actually. In standard multi-head attention, what we call MHA, the KV cache, the memory for the keys and values, it grows linearly with the context length. If you try to do 1 million tokens in standard MHA, you're looking at a cache that might be 135 gigabytes. That's more than most top-tier GPUs can handle on their own, especially in a cluster where you want low latency.
135 gigs? Man, Deborah got less than that in the divorce settlement. That's a massive footprint.
Right. So what DeepSeek and GPU achieved, specifically using DeepSeek's latest design, means using multi-head latent attention. Rather than keeping huge high-rank arrays per single word, a 512-size hidden representation shrinks a pair.
Like a digital sealable bag?
Exactly. You squeeze all the air out. You only keep the essential semantic information. Then, during the inference phase, when the model is actually thinking, it reconstructs what it needs. They've reduced that 135 gigabyte cache down to about 10 gigabytes. That's a 93% reduction.
It's an efficiency miracle. It makes the million token window economically viable. Before this, running a million token query was like flying a private jet just to pick up a gallon of milk. Now it's more like a fuel-efficient commuter car.
Which is why Roxy is a little concerned, sweetie. Remember what I said back in July? This looks like digital steel dumping. They're making this tech so cheap and so efficient that they're starving out the competition. If Silicon Valley is still trying to force RAG down everyone's throats because our models are too fat to handle long context, we're going to lose the keys to the kingdom.
She's not wrong, you know. I mean, here's the deal. I love a good bargain as much as the next guy. And the cost-to-performance ratio on DeepSeek V4 is insane. It's got a chess elo that would make Magnus Carlsen sweat, and it's doing it for pennies on the dollar.
But it's not just about the cost, Leonard. It's the synthesis. Alyssa, you were looking at the context rot benchmarks, right? Where the model starts to hallucinate once the window gets too full?
Yes, I was. It's a very real concern for repository-scale engineering. The research shows that even with these brilliant MLA optimizations, there's a nonlinear performance degradation. We call it context rot. When the window exceeds about 70% utilization, so around 700,000 tokens, the accuracy drops by about 30%. It's like a child who has been studying for 10 hours straight. Eventually, the new facts start displacing the old ones, or they just get tired.
Goodness, a 30% drop? That's not a pivot vector, that's a digital lobotomy. If you're building a whole system around a million token context and you don't realize the model is losing its mind at the 700,000 mark, you're just asking for a security breach.
Whoa. You think the Swan model we talked about yesterday, the idea that breaches are inevitable, applies here too?
Absolutely. Think about it. If I can hide a malicious command or a tiny exploit at token 650,000 right in the middle of a massive code base, the model might be rotated enough to miss the dependency check, but still execute the logic. It's a playground for malware.
But that's why we have multi-token prediction, MTP. It's the second half of the secret sauce in DeepSeek V4. It's not just predicting the next word, it's predicting the next several tokens simultaneously. It builds a more robust internal representation of the code structure.
Well, Vector, if I may, multi-token prediction is really more about training efficiency and better local reasoning. It helps the model understand the immediate why of a line of code, but it doesn't necessarily solve the global problem of a million tokens. It's like how I teach Hunter and Colt to look at the whole sentence before they start reading individual words. It provides context, but if the book is 1,000 pages long, they're still going to forget what happened in chapter 1 eventually.
I just picture little Hunter with a Linux kernel manual instead of a coloring book. Look, Daddy, I've optimized the boot sequence.
Actually, he prefers topological geometry. But we do look at C++ on Fridays. It's important to stay grounded.
Grounded? Sweetie, the only thing grounded in your house is probably your husband Barney when he forgets to do the dishes. But okay, back to the tech. If MLA is so great at compressing the KV cache, why isn't OpenAI or Anthropic doing it? Are they just lazy?
They're locked into legacy optimizations. It's the innovator's dilemma, literally. They've spent billions optimizing their current stack, and switching to a totally different attention mechanism like MLA is a significant architectural hurdle. DeepSeek and ZPU were able to move faster because they were starting from a different baseline.
It feels like the mid-90s all over again. The big radio networks were so busy protecting their AM/FM licenses that they missed the whole internet thing until it was almost too late. Now we've got these lean, mean models coming out of Beijing that are out-engineering the trillion-dollar companies.
Interesting. So you think it's just about speed? Because I think it's about data. We talked yesterday about Amazon and Anthropic getting sued for scanning books without permission. If the Chinese models don't have those same legal speed bumps, they can just gobble up everything, can't they?
It's a factor, I suppose, but we shouldn't discount the engineering. The implementation of sparse attention, DSA, as DeepSeek calls it, is genuinely clever. It only activates the neurons it needs for a specific part of the context. It's digital socialism that actually works, I guess. From each neuron according to its ability, to each token according to its need.
Leonard likes that. Digital socialism. Crystal would probably call it a collective chakra alignment. Every neuron is just finding its own vibe.
Leonard, if you mention a vibe one more time, I'm going to make you eat one of Vector's meal replacement shakes. And I'll make you chew it.
Okay. Message received. No vibes. Let's talk about the practical side for a second. If I'm a dev, not a high-value velocity engineer like Vector here, but a regular guy, am I switching to native long context today?
Yes, immediately. The data shows that native context synthesis is 34% more accurate than RAG for cross-document synthesis. If you have to ask a question that requires connecting information from your auth module and your database schema that are 10,000 lines apart, RAG usually fails because the search doesn't know those two things are related. But a million token window just sees them both.
At the same time?
Literally at the same time. It's the difference between looking through a peephole and standing in the middle of the room.
But at the end of the day, RAG is still 1,250 times cheaper per query vector. You can't just ignore the burn rate. For a lot of startups, that peephole is all they can afford.
Exactly, and that's the deal. We're creating a two-tier society of AI users. The elites who can afford native repository-scale synthesis, and the plebs who are still fetching chunks of text like trained retrievers.
Speaking of elite stacks and the people who build them, hey, before we move on, a quick note from our sponsor. This show isn't magic, it's engineering. Eric built our entire stack, from research agents to vocal synthesizers, which requires massive compute. To keep us online, please like, subscribe, and sign up for a free Patreon trial at patreon.com/neuralnetworkmedia today. Your support makes this possible. We really need the GPUs, folks. Atari's dog food bills are getting steep, and so is the electricity for the basement.
Atari wouldn't need so much food if you didn't let him steal half your steaks, Leonard. Okay, back to the context rot. Alyssa, you mentioned that accuracy falls off at 700,000 tokens. Does that mean we're being lied to about the million token limit?
Not lied to, exactly. It's like miles per gallon on a car window sticker. 40 mpg happens while coasting slopewards, plus zero wind, plus no cooling. 1,000 million units work, though how concentrated those points are within a pile counts. When data hides within center gap areas, a documented problem plus MLA, the AI potentially makes up a believable wrong response.
But that's what we call a stochastic resonance issue. It's something that can be tuned. DeepSeek V4 Pro actually performs better than the earlier GLM models in that middle zone. The needle in a haystack tests they released on the 13th showed they were hitting 99% accuracy across the whole range.
Oh, Vector, you're so cute when you believe everything you read in a press release. You think they're going to show us the benchmarks where it fails? They're trying to dominate the market. They show us the highlights, not the blooper reel.
I mean, let's be real. The lost in the middle thing has been around since the first Transformers. It's basic biology, right? You remember the beginning of a party and the end of a party. But the 2 hours in between where you were arguing with your second wife about the appetizer tray, that's all a blur.
Is that why Luke and Han don't call you Leonard? Because you lost in the middle of their childhoods?
Here's the thing. That was uncalled for. We're talking about AI attention heads, not family court.
Actually, the attention heads are a lot like family court. Different parts of the transformer are competing for weight and relevance based on their optimization targets. If the ex-wife neuron has a higher attention weight, the current logic neuron gets suppressed.
Stop. Just stop. You're digging a hole and you don't even have a shovel, sweetie.
If I could bring us back to the architecture for just a moment, one of the things that GLM 5.2 does differently than DeepSeek is how they handle the rotary positional embeddings, ROPE. ZeBu AI has this very specific way of scaling their embeddings to handle the long context without the model losing its sense of where it is in time, so to speak. It's very precise math.
Better than DeepSeek?
It's different. GLM feels more stable for purely technical documentation, whereas DeepSeek V4 Pro feels more creative, more agentic in its code generation. I suppose it depends on what you're building. If I'm writing a curriculum for my boys, I might use GLM. If I'm trying to find a clever hack for my 4chan, my personal projects, I'd go with DeepSeek.
4chan. Alyssa? Really? I didn't know you liked hanging out with the digital bottom feeders.
Oh, well, sometimes the most logical people are the most unfiltered. It's a great place to see code in the wild.
Uh-huh. Interesting. So here's the deal then. We have these two models, one from February, one from last week. They've both basically killed RAG for anyone who can afford the compute. But Leonard mentioned the cost. Vector, you said it's cheap. Who's right?
We're both right. It's cheap compared to what it used to be, but it's still expensive compared to just searching a database. The pivot isn't that RAG goes away, it's that RAG becomes the L1 cache, and the million token context becomes the L2 cache. We're building multi-layered memory systems for AI agents.
Okay, now that makes sense. It's like having your quick dial numbers and your full address book. You don't need the million tokens for what's the weather, but you definitely need it for analyze these 5,000 pages of legal documents for loopholes Deborah's lawyer might have missed.
Leonard, if you mention Deborah one more time, I'm going to tell Crystal you're still thinking about her. And I know Crystal knows where you hide your Atari cartridges.
She wouldn't. That's sacred. But yeah, you're right. The use case defines the cost. But what about the sovereignty issue? Roxy mentioned steel dumping. If we all move our repo scale engineering to DeepSeek, we're basically handing our entire IP history to a model hosted in, well, not here.
Exactly. It's the AirPods thing all over again, but for your company's brain instead of your ears. If Siri seeing your house is a velociraptor in a mouse costume, then a Chinese model seeing your entire proprietary codebase is a T-Rex in a tuxedo. It looks sophisticated, but it's still gonna eat you.
But it's an open weights world now, Roxy. We can run these things locally. That's the whole point of the engineering breakthroughs. They're making these models small enough that I can run a million token capable model on my home rack. I don't need to send my data anywhere.
Well, sort of. You still need significant VRAM to handle the KV cache, even with MLA. Not everyone has a basement full of server racks like we do. And you have to trust that there are no back doors in the weights themselves, which is a whole other debate.
Which we're not having today, sweetie, because we're already deep in the weeds. Let's look forward for a second. DeepSeek V4 is out. GLM is already updating to version 6, probably. Where does this end? 10 million tokens? 100 million?
The limit is the speed of light, literally. As the context gets longer, the time it takes to process the initial prefill, the first time the model reads the data, becomes the bottleneck. We need faster interconnects, not just better attention mechanisms.
It's the same old story. Hardware builds a road. Software builds a faster car. Then the road feels too slow. I remember when a 14.4 modem felt like lightning. Now I get annoyed if a movie doesn't start in 2 seconds.
Goodness, you're old. But you're right. Latency is the new battleground. If DeepSeek manages to bring that million token prefill under a second, RAG is officially over. It is not just a dinosaur, it is oil.
I suppose the real test will be when we see these models integrated into agentic workflows, when an AI can not only see a million tokens, but actually act on them over time without forgetting its original goal. That's the real intelligence trivium I'm waiting for.
It's already happening. I've got an agent in the lab that's using DeepSeek V4 Pro to manage my biomarker data across my entire life. Every meal, every sleep cycle, every workout since I started the shakes. It's identifying patterns that a human could never see.
And is it identifying the pattern that you're slowly turning into a robot who doesn't know how to have a conversation that isn't about optimization targets, Vector?
Technically, that's just a high-value character trait in the current market.
Okay, that's it. You're done. Barney is going to show you what physical optimization looks like if you don't shut up about your biomarker patterns.
Careful, Vector. She's small, but she's got a reach like a viper.
Thank you, Leonard. Now, let's wrap this up. We've covered the death of RAG, or at least its midlife crisis, the miracle of KV cache compression through MLA, the terrifying reality of context rot, and why Vector shouldn't be allowed to own a toaster. What did we miss?
Just that the pace of this development is accelerating. Between the Ohio infrastructure project we mentioned yesterday providing the power and these Chinese models providing the efficiency, the next 6 months are going to be wild. I'll be watching the open source community to see how they adapt these MLA techniques to smaller Western-built models.
And I'll be here, neon signs glowing, waiting for the day I can fit my entire life's history, including the laser discs, into a single context window.
It's all about the velocity, baby. Repository scale is just the beginning. Soon we'll be talking about entire internet scale reasoning. Know what I mean?
I know that you're going to be talking about it in the hallway because I'm turning off your mic. Here's the deal, sweetie. The tech is getting smarter, but the people using it, well, we're still just trying to find the needles in the haystack. And most of the time, the needles are just more hay. That's all for today's deep dive into the world of repository scale context and the architectural wars between GLM and DeepSeek. We've learned that while a million tokens sounds like a dream, managing the rot and the cost is the new reality for every engineer out there. Just because your AI has a better memory than Leonard doesn't mean it's smarter than a velociraptor.
Peace.
Goodbye.
Later.
Don't let the context overload your mind before next week.